Australians should get used to the trade war. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian Heise here, and welcome to another episode of Heise Says. I have my stein of coffee, and I thought we'd look at this article from news.com.au about the trade war between China and Australia, and our PM's take on how we all just need to get used to it. So Australians should get used to US-China trade war, as superpowers tussle for supremacy. Turbulent financial markets, reduced influence is becoming the new reality as China flexes its financial muscles in Australia's backyard. Well, you know, we really can't compete with the scale of our economy to China, guys. Come on. Seriously. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison has told Australians they will need to get used to the trade war between the United States and China, which may not be resolved anytime soon. The Australian leader gave a downbeat assessment of the spat on Tuesday, which has roiled global markets amid fears of a recession in the United States. Other major Western countries, like Britain and Germany, may follow. I think we're going to have to get used to this for a while, this level of tension, Mr. Morrison told Seven Network. We just got to accommodate that. We've got to absorb it. We've got to see the opportunities in it, of which there are many, really. The Prime Minister previously said he was confident the US-China trade war would be resolved, including after the G20 summit in Osaka in June. Well, no, it hasn't. However, as leaders including Mr. Morrison prepare to attend a G7 summit in Biarritz, France, he said China needs to stick to the same rules as other countries given its economic success. Well, we'll see. China is Australia's largest trading partner, and the US its most significant security ally. Well, let's have a look, guys. Let's bring that up. We'll bring up the AEC, the Observatory of Economic Complexity, and we will look at, what are our exports? Iron ore, 20%, coal, petroleum, gold, wheat, 2%. What are our imports? So, where do you think they're going? 35% of our exports are going to China. 24% of our imports come from China. So yes, I would say they're definitely our biggest trading partner. The US is, 3.5% of our exports, you can see there. 10% of our imports. Oh, my picture's in the way. So, having achieved the critical mass of economic performance, the rules that apply to all of us, the United States, have got to apply to China as well, as he said. And the rules, that seems a bit naive, that they're thinking, now that you've got, you're doing really well economically, you've got to follow the rules that we're all setting. Yeah. Sure. Yep. That'll work. And the rules-based order where it comes to how technology is handled, how partnerships are formed, how payments are made, how you reduce emissions, for example. We should be able all be the subject to the same rules now. Well, yeah, it's kind of stupid, isn't it? You've got the second biggest economy in the world, and everyone is harping on about Australia's impact on the environment. So it's just ludicrous. It is utterly, utterly ludicrous. It's this leftist superiority complex I think they have. Or white guilt. Western guilt, we'll call it. It comes as China is increasingly asserting its dominance on military, political, economic and cultural fronts, leading to clashes with protests in Hong Kong and a collision course with the White House over trade. In the Pacific region this week, China's ambassador to Samoa labelled critics of Beijing as ignorant and prejudiced following a regional summit in Tuvalu where Australia tried to reassert leadership. Instead, Canberra faced criticism over lack of action on climate change, with leaders such as Fijian Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama said they preferred China's brand of diplomacy to condescending Australia. So, they're preferring the Chinese diplomacy to Australian. Ambassador Xiao Zilong tried to seize the moment, dismissing Western charges that China's foreign aid program created client states as inaccurate Cold War thinking. Rather than pointing fingers at China's good deeds, Those who keep on making groundless accusations and speculations might as well do more themselves to provide help to the Pacific Island countries, he wrote in the Samoa Observer. Okay, I wonder what the people on the streets of Samoa and these other countries think. I wonder what their take on it is. Some people question the purpose of China's aid, even disregarded the facts and fabricated the so-called China debt trap. This is either of prejudice or ignorant of China's foreign aid policy. China's aid comes largely in the form of low-interest loans, but critics say it leaves debtor nations beholden to Beijing, eroding their independence. It's been dubbed debit trap diplomacy, and with fears China's famous Belt and Road Initiative designed to link the country to Europe will saddle countries with unsustainable debt levels. Why don't we do this same process rather than just giving money out, give them as loans, as an investment? Why aren't we doing the same thing? Why aren't we learning from them? Or is that too evil and capitalistic of me to think? Earlier this month, US Defense Secretary Mark Esper accused China of destabilizing the region using such tactics, citing predatory economics and debt for sovereignty deals. China's response in the Observer was blunt. The so-called China debt trap is extremely ridiculous. China's foreign aid, which comes without interfering in their domestic affairs or attaching any political strings, he wrote. Well, to be quite honest, there's a lot of American foreign aid that has political strings attached. A lot of it. A lot of African countries, a lot of aid organizations have expectations, cultural expectations placed onto a lot of the countries there. So, it's kind of it's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? Australia, the largest aid donor in the Pacific, is wary of China's interest in the region, fearing the long-term goal is to establish a military base in the islands. It launched a charm offensive dubbed the Pacific Step Up last year to counter Beijing's influence. But Chinese diplomats have been determined to have their voices heard in the region, sometimes pushing their cause aggressively. Mr. Morrison will attend the G20 summit in Biarritz this weekend, along with US leader President Trump and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So let's just have a look at the two economies that we're talking about. We'll look at China. You can see their economic complexity is 0.69, 33rd out of the world. We'll compare them to the United States. So the US is 7th in the world, 1.76. China's exports, 2.41 trillion, the first in the entire world. The US, 1.25 trillion, the third in the world. Imports, 1.54, second. And the imports of China, 2.16, they're the first. The United States. And GDP in the US is 59.5k, which makes them the 13th in the world. And you've got China at 16.8k, the 82nd in the world. So there's a big GDP disparity. But China, they've got a trade surplus, while America has a definite deficit. So what are they exporting in China? Broadcast equipment, computers, office machinery parts, integrated circuits, insulated wire, electrical heaters. Look at how advanced their economy is. Compared to Australia, I've been looking at, what is it? Non-knit women's suits makes up, 0.86% of their exports, valued at $20 billion. That's bigger than some countries in their non-knit women's suits. That's bigger than some countries' entire exports. So let's look at the US. What's their major export? Gas turbines, integrated circuits as well. Cars, 4.5. Where's China? China, where are the cars? That's interesting. Planes and helicopters, vehicle parts, packaged medicine, 29.5 billion. So you can see, look at the difference in what they're exporting. Now, what's the states importing? Broadcasting equipment, computers, video displays, cars, packaged medicines. China, what are they importing? Integrated circuits, crude petroleum, cyclic hydrocarbons, cars, gold. Who's importing more gold? China. 11.1 billion. The states are importing, and China are importing 40.3 billion. There you go. So guys, this just gives us a bit of an understanding of just the scale of the different... I mean, look at the trade balance there. Look at that. Compare that to the States. Look at the imports over the exports. Look at the exports over the imports. So, yeah, I don't know how it's really a trade war. I mean, destinations, 20% of Chinese goods goes to the States. And destinations, 11% of American goods go to China. But origins, 22% of their imports are from China. Whereas only 8.7% of their imports are from the States. So I mean, there you go. I mean, the United States is the biggest export partner or export destination for China, but Hong Kong and Japan and South Korea, those three together equal it. Interesting to see. I wonder who's got more to lose in this trade war, China or the States? Because if the America starts putting tariffs on all of the Chinese goods, which comprise 22% of their goods, that's going to cause an issue for their cost of living, you'd imagine. You would imagine. But, you know, it's all swings and roundabouts. Each country is manipulating their currency. You know, nothing's of any real value. It's all just paper IOUs. So, yes, let me know what you think, guys. Do you think Australia, poor old Australia, and here you go. Let's compare us. You know, there you go, our exports, 24. Are you kidding? Wait a minute. I gotta... Yeah, sorry. 243 billion. 243 billion. Not as bad. I was looking on a small screen, guys. But, you know, our gold, 29. What? Are we beating women's suits in our petroleum? Yes, we are. Good. We're not doing too bad. We're not doing too bad. But you know what? What we'll look at here is... We will look at... Sorry guys, that was a special effect there. I meant let's just look at New Zealand while we're here, you know? Will their exports beat women's non-knit women's suits? They have. Very good. I'm surprised. You know, it's only half of the New Zealand exports is non-knit women's suits from China. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining me for this episode. Like, share, and subscribe. And let me know what you think the outcome of this is. Do we just have to get used to it? You know, what's it going to tell for the future of Australia? We'll see. I think we're just a little bottle on the waves. I'll see you later.